I mean, in some ways, this could be sort of like a delineation between the first half of the show and the second half.
I guess so. Alright, so hopefully we should be alive once again.
Yep, looks like we have in fact returned.
Excellent. So I'll probably have to do some finagling for the VOD release on YouTube, but
yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
That's something we wanted to do.
My word.
But yeah, I was just saying over the course of the Fool is a character archetype that can be taken advantage of because they are only acting on instinct. But generally speaking, you also don't want to screw with the Fool.
Yeah.
Because the Fool is protected by God or the divine.
That's
the fucking point. They are able to walk around as freely and empty-headed as they do because there is a greater force that is watching out for them.
I mean, it's the original plot armor.
Yes. But it's also, it's literally the idea that they can be and are that way because there is some force that is making it possible for them to do so. And it is usually a benevolent force of some kind, although it can take on other forms as well. But it's when the Fool leaves being the Fool and starts to gain knowledge of the world around them that they lose that immediate protection. And sometimes the thing that sends the Fool into learning more things is a tragic event or someone coming to take advantage of them in some way, taking advantage of their kindness.
Yeah.
So, anyway. We're starting off with kind of that archetype.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and I'm sure this won't come back to bite the protagonist in any way, shape, or form, given that this is an ancient fairy tale.
Yeah.
Now look at his dance.
Could be a case of he's been given gifts.
Oh, yes, a fine terpsichore. Good as new, a skip and a hop down the road. At length he comes to a third old soak, worn to a whisper and playing a game of cards by the road.
Okay, I love that shot.
And the soldier looks as the fellow shuffled the pack and dealt out the cards one after the other, a perfect hand, and gave him a huge clap.
A splendid game.
Worth a farthing?
More, though I have nothing to give you.
Now, the soldier had but a single biscuit in his bag, and he was hungry as heck, so he thought on it.
But I have a biscuit you can share with me.
And the soldier held out his last dried biscuit and broke it in two. But it didn't feel good, did it, dearies, to give the old boy less than the others, so he gave him both halves.
You're a good man, and deserve more luck than to be on your last biscuit. Here, take my card, Sharon. And may they never lose for you.
Interesting.
You know?
So he's been given these gifts that are probably going to... given that it's called the Soldier and Death. Death is notoriously pitted as someone that you play games with to get out of dying.
I was going to say.
And it does seem like being able to entertain as well as win with luck.
I mean, we already had the invocation of a fiddler earlier, which is not helping the prediction here.
Old fable that just screws the protagonist for no reason. That's true, but given that he was just given supernatural luck...
threefold, which is a very powerful number in fiction.
Oh, yes, it is. But literally just given luck.
Yeah. Given the ability to dance, to whistle, and the potential for good fortune.
This an ugly thing, but remarkable. Order a bird in, or a beast, or anything you like, and it'll be there in a twinkle.
Then why didn't you make your own biscuit, you bitch?
And a light heart and an empty sack, and walked a warm night and a bright day, and came to a river.
East! Oi! Get in my sack!
Sir.
Sir?
It is customary to at least ask them out for dinner first.
Get into my sack! No thank you.
Again, there better be some unlimited salad and breadsticks in that sack. I don't know why I always turned the unlimited salad and breadsticks analog. Might have something to do with the fact that Olive Garden is going out of business.
Oh, is it?
I think so, yes.
Interesting. I mean, that's not really as surprising. We are in end stage capitalism.
Yeah. I mean, something Golden Goose. Red Lobster, too. Well, they're owned by the same company.
Yeah.
That's a nice whistle.
I got it off a poor soul down on his luck.
Home from the war, are you?
Aye.
And a sack full of spoils.
No. This is 3 geese I trapped yesterday. I want one for my supper. If you'll cook it for me and give me a bed, you can have the other 2 for your trouble.
I like a nice bird.
Be sure to bring back the sack.
And the landlord roasted him the goose in clove and honey and brought it back with a bottle of best wine. And the soldier ate it all and sucked the bones and drank the wine and danced until the morning when he sank, swam.
Not gonna lie, I've never had goose, but that makes it sound really fucking good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the only time... in fact, I think the one and only time I've seen, like, goose prepared was, like... The fucking Disney's adaptation of A Christmas Carol.
Oh, yeah.
When they had like the glazed goose being prepared as the lavish Christmas dinner.
Yeah.
I mean, again, this all goes back to seasonal themes. You've had duck. I've not had duck either, but I've heard it's very good.
Honestly, your tastes run very foul sometimes.
You know. No need to ruffle your feathers over it.
I mean, birds of a feather flock together.
True.
God damn it, guys.
Yeah. I mean, why don't we just, like, break the series of puns here and take a gander at this video?
Okay.
Bed. 3 days later, he woke up and looked out of the window, and there on the hill,
he sleep for
saw
3 days?
a palace.
I mean, listen, a good food coma will, in fact, do that to you.
Okay, that is fair.
Suffer, Silver. Suffer.
Hey, Voss!
Hello! I'm just doing some more reacting to the Jim Henson Hour tonight. Glad you could join us.
Yeah, good to see you. Hope you're doing okay.
Absolutely.
Slept well, soldier?
Not bad, not bad. Whose palace is that? Why are the windows all smashed?
That's the Tsar's palace. It was once a place of waltzes and chandeliers and fabulous parties. Now the devils have it for their card games.
Devils?
Devils?
Huh.
Every night they tumble in and scream and shout and play at cards. No decent folk go near, they're so devilish.
It's a nice palace. Someone should deal with those devils.
An army tried. In the morning there was nothing left but shadows, and that's the truth. These are devilish devils. And gamblers, too.
I think I'll take a closer look.
Well, that's folly.
He's literally the fool archetype.
Yeah, he literally is. And
Again.
plus, he did get a new deck of cards recently.
After all, as well as a bunch of luck. He's not... You could possibly conceive that he's scheming to take the palace, but his only stated objective here is someone should do something about these
devils.
squatters.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I have mixed feelings on people having a problem with squatters. There's, like, a reason why that happens, usually.
Yeah.
But, like, it's the quote-unquote altruistic inclination
Oh, yeah.
to rescue some property that's not being used the way that it, was designed to be used.
Yeah.
And so he's going to look into it, see if there's something he can do.
Who knows, maybe he could, make use of this Tsar's palace and make it into affordable housing.
Who knows? Who knows?
I mean, chances are, given that it's an old story, he probably won't, but a man can dream.
No. Literal devils, yes.
Yeah.
Not. The the soldier goes, sack on his shoulder, whistle on his lips, into the palace. And inside, it's very quiet, as if the walls were holding their breath and waiting.
You know, guys, typically with those types of cage setups, you're supposed to let the dancers out for a break.
Well, this is unfortunately what happens when they when they have to close very suddenly.
Mm-hmm. Reminds me of the
Leave their
ending to
employees
Hocus
in the
Pocus.
lurch.
Ah, my word. Ah, the witching hour.
Ah, interesting. Yeah? Was it literally 3 o'clock?
Well, hold that
Okay.
thought. I mean, something GOP reference. But let's take another look at that clock.
No, it's just midnight. So that's not the witching hour.
No, I just... See, it's hard for me to still remember that the witching hour specifically refers to 3 a.m.
Mm-hmm. Well, think of it this way. 3 is a very powerful number, especially in witchcraft.
True, I did just bring that up. So.
Yeah, you did.
We have a visitor. A guest. And he's whistling. That's a nice whistle. I want to have it.
Hello. I hear you like a game of cards.
Like a game of cards.
So, what shall we play for?
His soul. His whistle. His teeth. I collect teeth.
Fair enough. And what will you stake?
We've got 40 barrels of gold. Any good?
Very good.
Fetch the coffers.
Yeah, there's a lot of cunning in this man, I can already tell.
Oh, yes.
He is the fool, but again, the fool's not necessarily
Let's
stupid.
play then.
Yeah.
And with that, they settled down to business. The soldier dealt the cards and won.
My round, I think.
And I love how, like, they could have easily just tried to mass produce as many similar looking devil puppets here as possible, but no, they went to painstaking, like, trouble to make each one look like its own individual person.
That's the thing with Jim Henson is the puppets are designed with intent.
Yeah. Like, even just, like, the weird, uncomfortable, glossy sheen to the skin.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in the gray hair, like... I mean, great, you can tell these are puppets, obviously, but, like, this is still an application of practical effects that has aged very well.
Mm-hmm.
And I will always take a stance on emphasizing good practical effects over mass-produced CG effects.
Well, and the reason why they do CG effects, and I think we've touched on this before, is because there's not nearly so much of a union protecting people who do the CG art.
Yeah.
And all of the CG that we kind of take for granted in these movies. They get away with it, hopefully not for too much longer.
Yeah, and to clarify, I am not specifically shitting on people who, like, do very good quality, like, you know, like, forms of CG animation into which there's clearly a lot of love and care put into it. Like, it's specifically when it's the application of CG, like,
as a replacement for effectively staging things.
Exactly. Yes, I apologize for my lack of ability to properly articulate what I was trying to get across there. But yes, it's in lieu of, like, I mean, with the egregious examples, of course, being, like, the use of CG to replace actual sets, you know, in your typical Marvel movie, or to, like, deep fake like an actor who's no longer with us, for example.
And like, here's the thing. I don't think that that's inherently a bad thing. I don't think that by the nature of having a tool that provides the ability to fake certain things, I don't think that that as a tool is bad. However, this tool has come out without anything that regulates it or offers protections for the people who might fall victim to people misusing this tool. And that's why we
Exactly.
currently are where we are with the state of with the state of all media production, quite
Yeah.
honestly. With I think that you and I also grew up in a time when the graphics were poor. I mean, certainly by today's standards, but a lot simpler, and we still marveled at it. Personally speaking, I don't I don't care whether or not the CG is good. I don't care if it looks super polished or or anything along those lines. I don't care about how good the graphics are as long as the graphics are part of the story.
Yeah, so
As
long
long as they're
it's
part of the world that they're in.
yeah.
But when you're doing graphics just for the sake of having graphics, like, okay, here's an example. Legend of Vox Machina.
Mm-hmm.
All of their dragons are portrayed with CG.
Yeah.
But you know what that does? That creates this effect of them being a little bit otherworldly. They still clearly fit within the world design-wise, but you get that sense of them being
They're
more
in a tier
smoothly.
entirely of their own, separate from that of the main cast.
Exactly, or anyone else in the world.
Yeah.
And I think that it works because when you keep it consistent that it is the dragons that are being portrayed with this 3D animation, because it's inherently a smoother move.
Yeah.
2D animation is by default, unless you are spending way too much time on it, is going to have more, I don't want to say janky, but they're going to be a bit more abrupt. I think it works to if you have thoughtful application of CG.
Exactly.
But if you do that in lieu of practical effects, if you do that because you don't want to do the work to make something work, if you're doing it because you're lazy and you're taking advantage of people who have to do it for less money because there are no protections in place, then that's scummy and it's going to translate into how things look in the final product.
Absolutely. Again, it ultimately comes down to intent and available resources. And sometimes, like, the amount of love and care, and let's be real, money, that's invested into any given medium of animation, or one different method of animation, I should say, can be so convincing that you might think it's an entirely different one. For example, I think specifically of that one James Baxter shot from, like, the final episode of Steven Universe, where you could have sworn it was CGI. But no, it was just James fucking Baxter being James fucking Baxter with his 2D animation.
Oh, yeah. No. God. And again, when I watched, I was like, oh, they went for the CG for this. And then we actually saw the 2D storyboarding that James Baxter did. And we're like, oh, that's just James Baxter.
Yeah, in fact, let me do my own fucking, like, side tangent here for a second, because I want to show people what the fuck it is I'm talking about here.
Are you talking about actually showing that scene?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess this is spoiler warning for the end of Steven Universe?
I mean, listen.
Not even, like, all of Steven Universe, because there's still the movie and Steven Universe Future that came after this point?
Yeah. It's a single shot out of context. And it's even just going to be the... oh, wow, it's actually up on the James Baxter YouTube channel.
That makes sense, though.
5 years ago, shut the fuck up. I mean, age isn't real. We're all fucking... Oh, my God.
We're all fucking? I don't think so.
No, not so much. But, yeah, let me even just pull this up. And then if we go to... So, just to...
I'm jotting down the time.
Yes.
Oh. You're just showing it on the... Okay.
Yes. So, again, keep in mind, this is all 2D animation. But it was accomplished so smoothly with so many in-between frames that it gave the impression of being 3D application.
Yes.
And that is a degree of dedication and professionalism and actual genuine love for the art of animation that it can show up in any given method, whether it is 2D or 3D. It's just a matter of how much of the actual artistic integrity is kept intact.
Because, I mean, here's even the thing with that. I don't even have a problem. I wouldn't have had a problem if Steven Universe had used a 3D model for that moment.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have even had a problem with that, because if it's a tool, you can still... I'm glad... I mean, it's even more impressive that it was all 2D animated, but even if it were done with 3D, it would still work for that moment because of the sheer scale of difference between White Diamond and everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as it's done with, here's how to convey this thing using this tool, telling the story I want to tell, and to have this particular effect, that in itself is not the problem.
Yeah.
The problem is absolutely whether or not there's a reason for it. And that reason could be someone with a disability using tools to do something that someone else might normally be able to do. I don't even mind. This is what I mean by the idea of AI being used to help with art as a tool. I don't think that that's in itself a problem. The problem is if they had sourced all of their material ethically, and if it weren't such a magnificent drain on the environment that it is actively killing it faster and faster, and being forced on us. The thing is that the things that AI can do in terms of generative ability to compensate as a tool for certain things. Controversial take, I know. I would love to see that kind of technology actually refined, but with actual legal protections for artists.
Absolutely.
And creators.
Because here's the thing. I had a group of friends who, when AI was first starting, specifically the generative image producing AI was starting to take off in terms of, general public awareness of it. And they were showing examples, and I had voiced... I had that gut reaction, which is typical of, old fogies, of, oh, I mean, this is impressive technology, but what if it gets, I worry about this potentially taking jobs away from artists and stuff, and the general opinion among those friends was basically I mean, yeah, that risk is run with any new form of technology, but I'm sure people won't let it get to that point. Fast forward less than a year later.
Yeah.
And, I didn't want to be the person who said, I told you so, but I did fucking tell them so.
Yeah, you did.
But, yeah, anyway, yeah. All this to say that regardless of technical limitations or how photorealistic an effect may or may not be, you can clearly tell how much love and attention to detail gets put into any form of just bringing an artistic vision to life. Again, case in point, these fucking devil puppets here. And how that love and care will always come across to such an exemplary extent in those works, in stark contrast with examples of, I suppose, aesthetic, forgive me, the words are escaping me for the moment. Basically, general special effects that are put in place simply to try and push out a product. And to take away the human element.
Well.
Yes. Anyway.
again.
Is he cheating? Well, I am, and I'm still losing. Me too. Deal again.
Certainly.
And he did. And he won. And the devils got into the kind of fume only devils can get in. Fume, fume, fume. He won game after game while the devils cheated to high heaven and low hell to no avail. By the first bells of morning, the 40 barrels of gold were stacked behind the chair of the soldier, who whistled as he won.
Well, my friends, I suppose we'd better call it a day.
No, we will not. We will call it a breakfast, and you the meal.
First, make sure who eats who. What do you call this?
It's a sack. A sack. Just a sack.
Is it? Then by the grace of God, get in it.
You know?
Again! He may be the fool, but he ain't stupid.
Yeah, exactly. There is a difference.
He is cunning, but he lives his life by the grace of God. Like, that's the archetype right there.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean he can't think things through in the moment.
Yeah, it's literally just him doing good things because he feels it's the good thing to do and taking advantage of the tools his kindness
Affords him.
What does the sack... Oh, I mean, that was just it. It was essentially explained that the sack given to him by the third stranger he met along the way will successfully capture anything he attempts to capture. That's how he got the geese earlier.
Yep.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think you may have came in a little late in the story, Fossil.
Yeah.
But anyway. I think the third one was the cards in the sack.
Yeah.
He's having a gay old time.
Oh, Jesus.
Damn.
Don't piss off a fool.
Yep.
Sir.
More?
And will that be the end of your mischief in these parts?
And he's still willing to let them go.
Yeah. He's like, you gonna eat who, motherfucker?
It is literally a proportionate response to the threats that they made.
Yeah.
They were like, we'll eat you. You know, you're going to be our dinner. And he goes, oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Shows them that he has the power over them. And then says, so, are you still going to do it?
As the children say, I bet.
To bits. Let me go! Let me go!
I won't let you go, my boy, until you swear to serve me faithfully.
I swear! I swear!
I'll hold you to your promise.
Interesting.
Hey! My foot's come off!
That's right.
What the fuck?
You know?
Hang on. What the fuck?
I mean, listen,
What the-
some people have a lucky rabbit's foot. Some people have
No.
a monkey's paw. You know?
What the fuck? Okay, everything else we've been talking about. Okay, this is a cool, interesting allegory, and you can see how the kindness wins him and affords him certain things, and he's got good luck. And why the fuck are you stealing someone's foot?
I mean, listen.
I am. Anyway,
You gotta pay for the rent. I mean, you gotta pay for the indoor plumbing and electricity for the mansion somehow. You know, if it's gotta be feet picks, it's better it's not your own feet, isn't it?
shut the fuck up.
Boy, until you swear to serve me faithfully.
I swear! I swear!
I'll hold you to your promise.
Hey! My foot's come off!
That's right. Now off you go, and remember where you left it.
The devils rushed to hell and slammed shut the doors for fear of being followed by the soldier in his sack.
That was a sentence. They ran out of
Yes,
fear
I
of being
really-
followed by the soldier and his sack.
To be fair,
Yeah,
he did kind of have them over a barrel.
a little bit.
Or 40 of them, for that matter.
You know.
And quivered and fumed, fumed. But the soldier had no time for devils. He was the toast of the town and the star of the Tsar. But howsoever life smiles on us, the last laugh is reserved for death.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Everything is dandy with our friend the good soldier and his magic sack. Rewarded by the Tsar, he's a rich gentleman now, a husband and a father, lives in the castle. Blessed, caressed, and couldn't be better. Until one day, because fate is fickle, one day, because fortune is cruel, his son falls into a terrible fever.
He's worse.
And they calls for quacks and apothecaries and healers, and soon the boy's room is full with grey beards and shaking of heads. But still the fever rages, and the boy passes into a swoon.
I see.
Dear, the grey beards
So he's gonna
are
gamble with
replaced
death.
by priests mumbling and praying. And a man in black comes to measure a coffin.
Oh, what shall we do? My lips are sore with praying, and my knees are weary of kneeling.
And I've lost my whistle from worrying. It's the very devil, I say. The very devil. Now, where the devil's that devil of mine?
I'm here, Your Excellency.
Where have you sprung from?
Not so much sprung as hopped, sir. You have my foot.
Cure my son, and you can have it back.
This is my good wife, by the way, and this is my devil.
Meeting the in-laws.
Honestly, this is my good wife, by the way, and this is my devil.
Yeah.
And right over here, we have my aquarium.
Yeah, and over here, the summoning circle. Pay no attention to the dead goat in the middle. That's Greg. It's just his thing. It's in his enrichment activity, you see.
Because here's the thing. He actually did let this devil go and spent many years paying it no mind.
Yeah.
This devil was not in eternal servitude, as in, like, having to, wait on every beck and call. It's literally, I'm going to call on you at some point.
Oh, yes.
So this devil got to live a life.
Yeah. It's just big chilling. Also, Fossil, you just described the plot of your basic rom-com anime.
Honestly, yeah.
You do?
How do you do?
Yes, I saw your son was ill. Let me have a look at him. Yeah. Look in here, Your Excellency.
I see a small creature.
Huh.
So that's the Uncanny Valley one.
Yeah, no, this reminds me specifically of... I unfortunately cannot remember the name of the film specifically, but I believe there was a Swedish black and white film about a man who plays chess with death.
Yeah, well, it's a very common trope.
Yes.
The idea that you can somehow outwit death, and like you see that in all forms of media.
Yes.
And you don't really want to necessarily test your luck. Most often or not, the individuals who play some sort of game with death are not able to win purely because they're lucky, but because they do something else in the course of playing this game that ends up either distracting or outplaying death. Because death will also cheat.
Oh, yes. Actually, let me even look up real quick. Because I will not let this go. The Seventh Seal, that's what it was.
Huh.
It was in fact a Swedish film. Let's see. Returning exhausted from the Crusades to find medieval Sweden gripped by the plague, a knight suddenly comes face to face with the hooded figure of death and challenges him to a game of chess.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember seeing The Seventh Seal ages and ages ago during a film history from around the world course. My word. I'll have to watch that again sometime. There's a lot of films I saw during that class I need to rewatch.
Yeah.
One of them being M with Peter Lorre.
True.
I don't
That
think I
would
ever showed that
actually
one to
be-
you, did I?
To me?
Yeah.
Yes, you did.
Oh, I did. Okay, good. Because it's a phenomenal film.
Right. But that's just it. Like, that could be another thing that we cover. I'm pretty sure that that would not be covered by copyright.
Probably not, but yeah, that was Peter Lorre's first starring role in a film.
And not so much of an overplayed stereotype.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of helped shape his image in the annals of cinema history.
It did, but just because he's able to play crazy insane does not mean he's not actually also legitimately terrifying.
Oh yeah, no, I mean that's just it. Like even his role in Maltese Falcon, where he played it all calm, cool, and collect. Like he was still like stunning to watch on the screen.
Also a handsome man.
Oh yeah.
Anyway.
Excellency, where does he stand?
At my son's feet.
Ah, good. He will recover. It's when he comes to the head you must worry. Now, sprinkle some of the water from the glass on your child.
It's that easy.
You're a marvel.
Well, we do our best. Could I have my foot back then?
Most certainly.
Oh, thank you.
And
thank you,
again,
thank you.
Yeah, he keeps his promise. Like, again, the Fool will... If you fuck around with the Fool, you will find out. But again, this particular iteration of the Fool, at the very least, always keeps his word when it has been made. And that's why he continues to succeed.
because people know that cooperating is not going to get them the same result as not cooperating. He is consistent.
Mm-hmm.
He keeps to his
Will there
word.
be anything else, sir?
Give me that glass, and I'll release you from your promise.
Really? Oh, thank you. Quite nice black flowers.
And so the soldier set up in his new trade as Miracle Man and travelled the world.
How did you
on a
get it?
camel.
You know? That's the benefit of the narrator. And again, I'm sorry I keep harping on this, but John fucking Hurt is one of my favorite actors of all time for a reason. He is so charismatic in every delivery he ever gave, whether he was playing like the Horned King or, you know, Adam Sutler from the movie adaptation of V for Vendetta, which I have my own mixed feelings about overall. But just like every role I have ever seen this man in, he is like, he put his entire pussy into it, as the children say. And that's very evident here, because, like, apparently I was very late to the party in learning about The Storyteller as a series, but he makes for a great narrator here, specifically because he can capture that sense of, like, awe and whimsy inherent of, like, childhood stories, without it seeming like... what's the word I'm looking for?
Corny, cheesy.
Corny, cheesy, but also, like... when you're talking down to someone or belittling... Condescending, thank you. How did I, of all people, overlook fucking condescending? But
I don't know.
But, like, he engrosses you in the actual, like, magic of the story in a way that can capture both children and adults, I feel.
Yes. Excuse me.
Show him up the glass. If death sat at the foot of the bed, a quick splish-splash and up the invalid would sit, pouring out blessings. If death stood staring at the other end, the soldier would shake his head solemnly and depart, and the relatives would mutter, what a pity he came too late, and pay him all the same. But as often as not, he left with all happy and amazed and praising him. And if It went well for the soldier until one day, far from anywhere, he gets a message from home to say the old Tsar has fallen ill and sends for him.
Uh-huh. Is the Tsar going to cross a boundary?
I've come too late.
You save beggars and thieves and cats and dogs, yet you won't save your master.
If death needs a
Can't.
new friend, I cannot fight him.
Then let me go in his place.
No. The Tsar has been my friend and father. If anyone should go, it should be me.
You know? And again, like, this is one of the realest motherfuckers you will see in any of these types of ancient stories, especially given the emphasis on self-serving protagonists in much older stories. Like, this is an iteration of the fool who has always done good by people to the best of his abilities given his own resources, and seeing someone, like, especially someone in a position of, like, power and influence, suffering and very much on death's door, and seeing that there's not much he can do to help him given the limitations of his own tools, when he sees there's nothing else he can do except offer his own life, he does it without thinking.
I mean, I'll even say this. He did it with some degree of contemplation.
Yeah.
But it was... the woman herself was out of line.
Yeah.
You'll do this to beggars and thieves, and it's just like, yeah, because they're people. But you won't do it for your Tsar. And it's just like, he can't.
Yeah.
He can't do anything at that point.
There are
It's
rules
that
in
demand
place.
that somehow this man is entitled to healing. And
Yeah.
again, it is beyond his ability to do. So instead, he is going to put himself on the line. Now, we know that he has various tools at his disposal, including a devil who's probably going to remember that he kept his word.
Yeah, and I mean, that's just it. Like, again, the point, like, I was trying to make earlier is that, like, he did require some contemplation, but the moment someone says, take me instead of him, he takes him, he just, almost without thinking, says, like, no, better I go than you put yourself on the line, since I'm the one who came here to try and help him.
And by the very nature of him being a soldier, like, in the classic sense, as opposed to modern day.
Yeah.
But you don't become a soldier in times like these unless you are truly there to put your life on the line for others.
Absolutely.
Sir, take me and spare the Tsar. I beg you.
You might be a real prize for death.
Yeah, and again, treating death with respect. Like, addressing him
making
as
a
sir.
And not making a demand.
Yeah.
Very clearly saying, please.
Yeah, like, it was one thing to be cheeky with the devils because they were, you know, very much in over they were, like, very cocky and self-assured and actively threatening him. Death is just doing their job, and he is making a simple request as someone who helps people, is a very much a soldier in his actions, even if not in his profession, strictly speaking, trying to help others in any way he can, and making a humble request of the person in the ultimate position of authority in this case.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's just it, like, I mean, obviously, as, like, someone in a, what is essentially a healthcare profession here, a death is something you want to try and avoid, or at least, you know, stave off as, you know, a form of physician or healer, but it shouldn't necessarily be seen as your enemy. And the soldier understands this.
Here's the interesting thing. His remark, as he was saying that he couldn't do it, was that death needs a friend.
Yeah.
That is what is going on in this moment. And so his offer here is he's making himself the friend. So I actually would not be surprised if this does actually turn out to be the end for him. But not necessarily in the worst way.
Yeah.
Like, it could still be a benefit. And if you are in the position of, well, serving death and befriending death, maybe you'll have more of an opportunity to prevent needless death.
Yeah. Just like a force of active good in the world.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, death is a neutral, but can be a good. Anyway.
Praise be! Praise be!
Ask not for whom the bell tolls.
Yeah.
Oh, husband, is it all up with you?
Do you know what this is?
A sack.
Oh.
If this is a sack, then get in it.
Oh, okay.
I put death in my sack!
Okay. I don't think this is gonna go well for you.
Yeah, I think you may have bitten off a bit more than you can chew.
Good aim. Death a prisoner. The news whispered from one of the Tsar's 50 wives to the other spread through the town as fast as gossip, which is what it was, and nothing spreads faster. And within 4.5 minutes, the whole town knew. And within 17 minutes, the whole country knew. And by the following morning, it was the talking point of 1,000 languages. Death a prisoner. Muerte un prisionero. Tod ein Gefangener. Smiert us Nietzsche. I forgot the Greek.
But here's
like
here's
that.
the thing.
I just gotta applaud that performance there. Just the delivery. I've forgotten the Greek.
Yes. This changes a handful of things.
It does.
Once again, the fool was clever, but maybe not clever enough this time, because what happens when you trap death?
Mm-hmm.
What happens when people can't die?
Well, that you get this the synopsis of a season of Torchwood.
You get an example of people who need to die because of the amount of pain that they are in.
Yep.
Death is not merely an inconvenience. It is not merely a tragedy. It is also a mercy.
Yeah.
It is a necessary part of life. I know that you, Logician, would agree with that statement, or would disagree with that statement.
I mean, it's less that I disagree and more that I'm sort of an exception, generally speaking.
Well, it's an
whether I
exception
agree
you
with
want
it or not
others-
isn't really up for debate.
True. I mean, death is a fact of reality. And in cases where your pain or suffering has exceeded your ability to tolerate it, it can be a mercy.
Yeah.
Obviously this is a morbid sort of subject literally by default, but take away someone's ability to die from them and you get torture.
A little bit. As I'm sure we're about to find out in some way, shape, or form.
It could be a case of you didn't lock me in with you, or you didn't, I'm not locked in here with you, you're locked in here with me kind of moment.
Anyway.
Yeah. Let's see what happens.
Estimate on Thanato. Exactly.
Well, there you go.
And the soldier, to be on the safe side, set off with death in his sack and found the thickest forest and the highest tree and clambered up it and hung death from the longest branch and promptly fell off. But there's nothing like death off duty to cushion a fall.
So nothing died?
Nothing. The oddest battles. There were wars going on in most places, and they were very strange. At the end of a day's carnage, flashing swords and explosions, the air thick with arrows and savage swoosh of axes, nobody had died. The armies would look at each other exhausted and intact. Duels at dawn went on till midnight, when the rivals would go home confused. Crossed lovers would throw themselves off cliffs and have a long climb back. And my friend the soldier was the most famous man in the world because suddenly everyone could live forever. He sat in his palace and whistled his ruby whistle. And then one day, looking down from his window, he sees his courtyard full of poor souls wandering. Old scrags of folk barely held together. They were waiting for death's release, and it would not come. And the soldier could not bear their sorrow. Back he went to the forest.
He's gonna fall and die this time. Or not.
Death? I've led you a merry dance, but now you must have me and set the world to rights.
Death! Come back! I'm sorry.
What? Death!
Come back!
Come back!
Baby, was it something I said? What, you didn't like the joke?
Did I cross a line? I'm sorry, imprisoning you for many years. Was that too much?
Should I ask for a safe word?
Did we need to set... I didn't set proper boundaries, did I? Oh, this parasocial relationship has worked out for no one.
Do we need to see other people?
I don't like this.
Death is a scaredy... Well, I mean, given that this is one of the few people who's actually thrown hands with Death and managed to walk away intact, I can understand Death being a little wary.
Well, there's also a little bit of a betrayal there.
Yeah, a little bit. After all, he did say that Death needed a friend, and that was not very friendly behavior.
I mean, saying, take me instead of him, and then trapped him for however many years.
Yeah.
Come back.
Had fear of the soldier and his sack, and would not come back.
I'm sorry, pause, please.
No, I agree. I'm right there with you. That fear of the soldier and his sack.
Oh, but okay, we are seeing the consequence.
Uh-huh.
Death never came back for him.
Mm-hmm.
And so he became that old soul craving for death.
Absolutely. I see you, Silver. Return the slab or suffer my curse.
Jesus.
Watch while others aged and died, but death would not come for him. No, the soldier, old kipper, dried beef, lived on and on and on until he could stand it no longer, and dragged his dust and fragments across to the edge of the earth and slowly down to hell.
Yes,
A sinful soul comes to surrender his life.
yes. What's that you're carrying?
Nothing. An old sack.
A sack! Ah!
The sack! Ah! I'm sure he's used to a lot of people screaming in fear at the sight of his sack.
Ah, yes. It's like browsing Blue Sky and accidentally coming across something you didn't intend to.
To be fair, like, he has been pretty ballsy this entire time.
I mean, once again, given the size of his sack, I would hope so. My word. Why did he keep it, though? Would it be... I mean, that's just it was a gift. Maybe he just holds onto it like a security blanket.
I mean, it's worked for him before.
Uh-huh.
In, I beg you.
Go away! Go on and take that horrible sack with you!
But where can I go?
We don't care! Just dig it off!
I won't go unless you give me a map to heaven and a way in.
You know?
You know?
You know you've got a fucking reputation with hell when they just give you the key to heaven without really having to push.
Yeah.
200 souls you've no further use for.
150.
You know what this is.
Don't wave that sack around. All right, 200. Yuck. Follow the map until you can go no further. Then go directly up until you get the sensation of standing on your head. That's the edge of heaven.
So I'll even say, like, yes, the soldier fucked up, but here he found himself an interesting opportunity. Like, yeah, I'll go if you give me a map to heaven, but also 200 souls you don't need. This dude, in trying to save his own skin, found an opportunity to save 200 people from eternal damnation.
Well, but is that a good thing?
That's the question, isn't it?
Here is, again, capturing death. Was that a good thing? Turned out not to be. 200. So, okay, here's the thing. I don't believe in eternal punishment. But if we are going by the idea that if you have sinned so egregiously as to be, trapped in hell for all of eternity, then you must have done something to deserve it. Like, we have to assume that is a premise here. We do. Because that's what a fairy tale is about.
Oh, yeah.
Is if you end up in hell in a fairy tale, you are a sinner.
That is where we get objective morality from, yes.
That is still, on the other hand, like, we've seen that he saves the likes of beggars and thieves and those who are down on their luck, and is willing to give the last biscuit he has for the sake of someone else and their service to others.
Oh, yes.
If there are 200 souls that they don't need, that kind of indicates a sort of purgatory, because they need the ones that they're torturing, like, actively.
I'm wondering now if this is supposed to be a story about the origins of purgatory. Or limbo.
Interesting. Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
Follow the church music.
Of course.
Who approaches the gates of heaven?
I am the soldier who took death prisoner, and I have brought 200 souls from hell in the hope that God will forgive me and let me in with them.
He sent them.
Enter, but alone.
Go then.
He sent them to hell.
Yeah.
I hope these 200 sinners allow me to get into heaven.
Once inside, call me into the sack.
Once again, getting a bit cocky here.
I delivered you from the furnace.
But you see, there is no memory in heaven. Souls forget. The soldier waited and waited an inch from paradise, until after a long time, forgotten, he turned and walked slowly back to Earth. And for all I know, he wanders still.
So sad.
Oh, he's a rare boy, my friend the soldier. He's somewhere about his business.
You sure?
Come on.
Uh-huh.
Have your biscuit.
I mean, that would explain why he has the glass, wouldn't it?
Uh-huh.
And why he has so many stories to tell.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what this is?
A sack.
Well, if it's a sack, then get in it. Just checking.
Okay, that's cute.
That's actually interesting.
Yeah.
And we got lore on the storyteller.
Yeah, we got an origin story.
Possibly, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's just it. Like, if you find that you've been blessed / cursed with eternal life, what better way to utilize that than to become a storyteller? To remember things that no one else will. Anyway, let's
play the shitty games that suck ass.
Yeah, you know what? I was reluctant to draw the comparison, but
I remember it so you don't have to.
uh-huh. Listen, I would much rather keep that timeline in the past.
But that is interesting, if that is indeed the implication at play here.
Oh, yes.
That someone who acted kindly and philanthropically, someone who gave of himself without necessarily asking for much in return, in some cases asking for nothing in return.
Yeah.
But someone who was clever and able to navigate more than just his luck. That is the perfect person to see the world, to experience, well, everything.
Oh, yeah.
And to be able to tell stories about all of them. And I like the idea that he has, if again, this is, the origin story, he has turned his role into something that, once again, gives to others without asking.
Oh, yeah.
Telling stories is... I'm going to get all philosophical on all of you guys, but...
On my channel? No.
One of the things that I value as a writer and as a storyteller of any kind, storytellers aren't here because they tell a pretty story. You can tell when someone's heart is in a creation, in the writing, or if they are just following a trend or following, like a popular genre or something like that. Storytellers are about bringing you on an experience to take you to a better place of understanding. Whether it's understanding people that you otherwise would not have been able to meet, whether it is helping you to understand a perspective that you otherwise never could, or it's working through the allegory to tell you what you might be capable of. Or different ways to think of solutions, different ways out of the problems that you experience.
Yeah.
Storytellers serve a tremendous function within any society. And it's one of the reasons why all of these infringements on the ability for people to create and do art and tell stories, and this commodification of telling stories, is actually in itself a problem, because it devalues what a story is. It makes it a diversion instead of something that you carry with you as an experience in your life. So, yes, I do think that the role of the eternal storyteller is very fitting for someone whose entire life has been about service to others.
Yeah. And even just looking at the potential origin point here of being a soldier, what better weapon is there for future generations than information?
Pen is mightier than the sword, or so they say.
Indubitably.
I mean, that is explicitly talking about things like journalism and what stories are told about you once you have passed.
Yeah.
But yes, ruthlessness is mercy upon yourself.
Yes.
I suppose, but even so.
Oh, yeah.
It's an interesting origin. Let's let Jim Henson walk us out here.
Lead us out, Jim.
Go for tonight. Oh, you're back from the library. What have you got there? Come on, let me see. Let's see. Oh, it's a library card. That's good. Everybody needs one of those.
Yeah. They really do! Support your local libraries!
Support your local libraries. It's not just books. They got movies, they got CDs, they got all sorts of fucking things.
They offer access to the internet, especially for individuals who may not otherwise have access to the internet. They provide a safe place for you to dwell during the day. They give you an air-conditioned space.
Yeah.
You know, when it gets too hot.
Support your fucking libraries. They're going the way of the milkman. They need all the help they can get.
Well, and that's just it. If you ever need to know where the last bastion of freedom truly is, it's in a library.
Yeah.
Where the knowledge is accrued.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There you go. Thank you for joining us tonight. Come back again next week.
I mean, dude, you tore his library card.
Yeah. I mean, he just stamped it.
No, he tore it out.
I think he
You heard the tear sound when he pulled it out of his mouth.
I think that might have been a wrinkling of paper. Either way.
So this has been an interesting romp today.
It has, and I'm looking forward to the next thing we react to, whether it's this or something else. But this is honestly one of my favorite streams. Well, my favorite types of stream, I should say. Whenever we're just sort of looking at media, analyzing the potential symbolism at play, what could or could not be utilized, as properly as it should be in terms of the overall message trying to be conveyed.
Yeah. I think that this is a worthwhile thing. And not
Absolutely.
just like I was just, waxing poetic on the role of the storyteller, but I'm not going to pat us on the back as if we are some kind of bastion of free thought or anything. But this is something that I want to do.
Oh, yeah.
I want to demonstrate in my own way, and I would love to see more people do it as well. Not just, here's my opinion on this, here's my thoughts on this, but engaging with something to look at its components and figure out what it means to you specifically and how to engage with it, that there are multiple interpretations.
Yeah.
Like, was the soldier a good man?
Yeah.
Ostensibly, one would probably come to that conclusion, but he did lead to the suffering of many people, including himself.
Yeah.
He scared death.
Mm-hmm.
Death, who was just doing its job.
Which is a hell of an accomplishment, all things considered. Also, Fossil, probably not tonight, since it's 11 o'clock p.m. Our time.
Oh, good! I love how I appeared before you did.
I mean, just another demonstration of how thoroughly you've wormed your way into my life.
Aww.
Yeah.
Love you too, buddy.
Yeah, go ahead and interpret that as you may.
I was going to anyway.
Yeah. But, yes, I wholeheartedly agree with Loreley, and that even if we are not at the forefront of leading the charge in that department, there needs to be more and more people spreading just the general concept of thinking critically about the media we consume, and I hate that I keep having to call it consumption, because, let's be honest, media and art have become a consumable product at this point.
And welcome back, Fossil. I think we were saying that because it's 11 o'clock, we're probably not going to be doing the next episode tonight.
Probably
Maybe
not.
Sometime next week, or...
Potentially. Again, we have a lot of things on the docket to potentially watch. But, point being, yes, there need to be more people thinking critically about what shows we watch, what books we read. Please read more fucking books. Support your local libraries.
I agree. And I'll even say this. Critically does not mean as in taking it negatively.
No.
Or cynically. As a matter of fact, critically just means that you're not just taking it as is or as presented.
Yeah.
Critically means that you put a microscope, on it. You take a magnifying glass and you go over it to look over its component parts. You weigh the good and the bad. People tend to think of critical or criticism as a negative or a potentially hurtful thing, because some people have decided that criticism is all about deconstructing instead of rebuilding.
Yeah, I
Or
myself fell
that's
into that trap at one point in my life.
right. It is easy too, because like it is easy to find the things that don't work. It is not always as easy to figure out what does work. And I think that's why, again, truly critical media analysis is not just why doesn't this work, but what does work or how could it work. It's watching a show that has a bad ending and say what could be done to fix this, what could have been done to make this work better. Like, I don't think there was any salvaging Game of Thrones outside of the last few episodes just should not have been what they were,
Probably
period.
not.
But that's just it. The criticism there is they wanted to tie a knot on things. They had decided what the outcome was without actually looking as to what the story was leading to. They made the story they wanted it. They made the conclusion that they wanted without actually doing any bridge to it. And their only excuse is, oh, well, there's craziness in her family. Like, that's not helpful. But it's looking at how would you then fix something like that? And why does the story lead in that particular direction? I'm so sorry that it keeps freezing on you, Fossil. But anyway, it's worth doing, even if it's just 1 hour of Jim Henson stuff at a time.
1 hour. 1 hour.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we're on 3 hours now, but...
But yes, genuinely, I do appreciate all of you dropping by for these streams specifically. I know it's, I mean, I would say it's a bit of a departure from your typical VTuber / PNG tuber stream, but reaction videos are nothing new for PNG tubers or VTubers. We're no exception to the rule, but I'd like to think there's at least some sort of difference in dynamic when it comes to critically breaking down, not necessarily in a negative light, but just analyzing the various aspects at play when it comes to the visual and writing elements of storytelling at play, especially with something like Jim Henson, which is always meant to be sort of, again, a pulse on the finger of pop culture, and even with regards to, Jesus fucking Christ, I need to learn how to talk one of these days. With regards to shorts like The Storyteller and the obvious symbolism that is constantly at play, just emphasizing the fact that we need to think about how we personally relate to the media that we watch and take in. And what ultimately we feel like we can or need to take away from the lessons being taught or at least conveyed in those stories. Because once again, as Laura put it, so succinctly earlier, everyone is going to walk away with a different message when it comes to the type of media we watch. And I keep trying to avoid using the word consume because I really, really hate trying to, perpetuating the idea that media is something to be cheaply, taken in, cast aside, and then forgotten about. But even just looking at... I'm talking myself in circles here. You know what I'm trying to get across.
Definitely. I would even say art is not a matter of reaching a consensus. It is good to try and communicate as best we can, and sometimes that is through allegory, sometimes that is through fairy tales or just any media where you are sharing either truth or fiction. You should have a consensus on things like, does gravity work? Do people need sleep? You don't always get consensus on these things, but in terms of what something means to you emotionally, you should not be trying to do what everyone else says is going on. You should not feel the way other people tell you to feel about it. And this is important to take into account. Even with people who do media criticism and analysis for a living, for their YouTube channel, whatever, never take what someone says to be an absolute. It doesn't matter how informed they are, because every bit of art is meant to be taken differently depending on the person.
Yep.
You can take their opinion into account, and if it makes sense to you, if it helps you see a different perspective on the story that you've just seen, then excellent. That person has done a good job, or you have done a good job at taking in new information and integrating it into what you already know. But if someone says, no, this is absolutely what it is, and every other interpretation is wrong, I would not listen to such a person.
Yeah. Like, that's just it. Like, there's only so much we can objectively say is one way or the other, and even then, a lot of what we think we know about life, the universe, and everything in it is limited by our own very limited sensory tools. Like,
yep.
We can only see so many colors because our eyes only have 3 cones that can process that much sensory information. We can only glean so much about, what happens in our lives and the people who partake in our lives because we were raised in very specific households with very specific moral compasses, and thus we see things through a very specific lens that was both consciously and subconsciously honed by those lessons.
Mm-hmm.
All we are asking is that when you watch or read or listen to any given story, you take the time to think about how these stories make you feel and what those feelings may mean. And if that ends up changing your stance on something, great. If it doesn't, that is also completely valid. We just want you to think. That's all I have ever asked of anyone watching my stuff, is that you fucking think.
It's literally his catchphrase.
Yep. I mean,
But,
as you are so keen on reminding me, I have very specific key phrases I like to latch onto.
But it is an important one.
I would like to think so anyway.
Of course, you would like to think so, wouldn't you? Thinking does not mean arriving at a correct point. Thinking actually should take people in different directions, because the best way to actually understand this vast universe is to expand outwards, much like the universe itself does.
Yeah. And I mentioned before that I try to adhere my life and the direction I take it to the scientific method. One of my biggest pet peeves is whenever someone says that science definitively has proven one thing or another, because that's not how science fucking works. Science does not definitively prove anything. It just provides enough empirical evidence to support one hypothesis or another, and with sufficient evidence, that hypothesis becomes an ongoing theory.
It's a matter of, this is what our current understanding of this phenomenon is.
And thus, when we gain new information that may contrast with the ongoing theory, we have to reopen our way of thinking to account for this new information. This is why doctors have ongoing training with new discoveries in various fields of medicine. This is why various professors have to rework their previous theories about how the universe works when they find something in the stars that they don't fucking understand.
It's why it's called a medical practice. It's why it's called, oh god, what was it? The medical practice and well, it's the ongoing, I was gonna say the DSM gets updated periodically.
Yeah.
So for example, Asperger's syndrome.
Yeah, Asperger's syndrome. It's just a diagnosis that straight up doesn't exist anymore, because we have found more information that leads us to believe that autism as a diagnosis is more of a spectrum than one very specific condition.
Exactly. And a spectrum across all different kinds of symptoms and traits that one can have. But that's just it. New information comes out. The world has to adapt. I mean, your world has to adapt. I'm not saying uncritically, but if there is something that makes sense, then I don't know. Think about things. Everything has to be, there's never any hard and fast rule. Think about it. Make the decision for yourself. Try to be open-minded to new information and new perspectives, but also contrast that with things that you hold dear. And try to figure out not what you've been told, but what works for more than just you.
Especially in the face of people trying to convince you to do otherwise. People who try and convince you to blindly obey, to blindly go along with what they believe is best for you or the world. It's why I don this message on my fucking chest. Think. It's not illegal yet.
It might be.
Yeah.
But I don't want to
once
leave it on
again,
that
I
kind
think
of
we've
dark note.
delved a bit too much in the dark for one night.
I agree. This has been a morbid-ish subject today.
Well, once again, this is us.
Yeah. I tend to tap dance on the dark side of things.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, this is one of the two gifts that was provided out of kindness, wasn't it? At least in that last story.
Which never came into play, did it?
Well, I mean...
No, he never used it.
Well, I mean...
It was just some additional gift that was given to him.
Yeah.
I guess.
Whistling.
Because you need to have the rule of 3.
Yeah, whistling, dancing, and luck.
You know. 3 things always associated with one another. Anyway.
I mean, I will say for live performance, a fuck ton of luck is necessary, so you don't sprain your ankle.
True.
I mean, watch any performance of Hadestown, you will understand what I'm talking about. Anyway, I digress. Thank you, as always, for joining me, Lorelei.
Oh, of course.
And thank all of you.
I'm happy to join you.
I apologize, go on.
No, I'm going to talk over you. I'm going to talk over you.
You're going to what?
I'm going to talk over you.
I hope you mean a hot glue gun, and even then, maybe not so much.
Thank you for having me on so that I can do that.
Uh-huh.
You're welcome.
Clippers, you know what to do.
I'm doing that.
Uh-huh. In any event, thank you all very much for taking the time out of your mornings / evenings / time zones are fucking garbage and dog shit, and I can't fucking talk anymore. Then again, that implies I ever could to begin with without a script, but I digress yet again. I appreciate all of you for coming by and contributing, even if you can't monetarily, with your feedback and expressed enjoyment of these types of streams. It lets me know that you want to see more of them, and I would love to provide more of them. But until the next time, I hope all of you have a wonderful rest of your, I suppose, time cognizant to avoid any more complicated details. And as we have done our best to try and convey, always remember to fucking think. Thank you very much.
Have a good night. Or day.